Commander Avery Kane sat in the briefing room, the sharp hum of the starbase's engines in the background. The room was full of pilots from different worlds, but Avery stood out. He was human, one of the few, and known for his quick thinking and calm under pressure. Today's mission sounded simple, but the tension in the air said otherwise. The Velari Empire, Earth's close allies, had asked for help. Their royal family was traveling through a dangerous part of space, and someone had to escort them. Rumors said pirates were waiting out there, pirates who didn't care about rules or peace. Colonel Janik, a tall Velari officer, walked into the room. His blue skin looked even paler under the lights. He didn't waste time with greetings. Attention. You've all been chosen because you're the best. The Velari Queen and her family will be flying to the Peace Summit on Callist. Your job is to keep them safe. Intelligence reports increased pirate activity. Warlord Sarkin's fleet was seen near our route. The room got even quieter. Everyone knew about Sarkin. He had defeated larger ships and left nothing but wreckage behind. Avery saw a few pilots glance at each other, but no one spoke up. They all understood what was at stake. Colonel Janik pressed a button, and a 3D map hovered over the table. You'll fly here. He pointed to a glowing path through the Asterian belt. It's a shortcut, but dangerous. Too many places to hide. Avery studied the map. He noticed the places where pirates could attack. Shadowy asteroid fields, old wrecks drifting in the darkness, radio black zones. His mind raced with plans. If he was going to keep the Queen's family safe, he'd have to be smarter than the pirates. When the meeting ended, Avery headed to the hangar. He saw his ship, a Mark VII Valkyrie fighter, sleek and deadly, painted with the blue and silver colors of the Alliance. He ran his hands along its hull, feeling the smooth metal. This ship had saved his life before. He trusted it more than most people. His co-pilot, Maya Chen, was already waiting. She was grinning, her helmet under one arm. Heard you got the Queen's escort job. No pressure, huh? She teased. Avery smiled back. Just another day in paradise. But inside, he felt the weight of the mission. He thought about his family back home, about the Velari Queen and her children, about how one mistake could mean disaster for everyone. He promised himself he wouldn't let that happen. As the ships lined up for launch, Avery glanced at the stars outside the hangar bay. They looked peaceful from here, but he knew better. Space was full of danger. Tonight, he would have to be ready for anything. And somewhere out there, Warlord Sarkin was waiting. The convoy moved through space like a string of bright jewels. Avery's fighter flew at the front, leading the way. Behind him, the royal cruiser shimmered with gold lights, guarded by smaller ships. Everyone was alert, scanning for trouble. Inside his cockpit, Avery checked his screens again and again. Maya watched the scanners too, her eyes sharp. She was quiet now, not joking like before. They both knew this wasn't a normal escort mission. Suddenly, Maya's screen flashed red. Multiple signals, coming fast, she shouted. Avery gripped the controls. Out of nowhere, black pirate ships exploded from the asteroid shadows. They fired lasers, lighting up the dark with wild, angry colors. The lead pirate ship was larger and uglier than the rest. On its side, a jagged skull was painted in silver. Everyone knew that mark. It was Warlord Sarkin's flagship. Convoy under attack, Avery called out. His voice was calm, but his heart was racing. He dived and spun his fighter, shooting at the nearest pirate ship. His shots hit, and the enemy ship spun away, smoking. More pirates swarmed in. The other escort fighters joined the fight, filling space with sharp movements and flashes of light. The royal cruiser tried to pull back, but Sarkin's flagship was already moving in, aiming for its engines. On the cruiser's bridge, Queen Talena watched the battle with fear in her eyes. Her daughters huddled close. The youngest, Princess Nira, looked out a window, her face pale. "Will we be okay, Mother?" she whispered. "We have the best pilots in the galaxy," the Queen said, trying to sound strong. "We will be safe." Outside, Avery's squad was outnumbered. Pirate boarding ships shot cables at the royal cruiser, trying to attach. Avery saw one connect near the back. Alarms blared on his comm. "Boarders have breached the royal ship," a voice shouted. Avery made a quick decision. He radioed the cruiser. "I'm going in close. Protect the Queen at all costs." He dodged between two pirate ships, blasting one out of the way. Maya fired at the cables, snapping some, but one ship still stuck. Suddenly, Sarkin's voice echoed over the radio, deep and cruel. "Humans and Velari, give up the Queen, or I take her by force. Surrender, or watch your ships burn." Avery gritted his teeth. He wouldn't give up. He flew closer to the cruiser, looking for a way to stop the boarders. On his screen, he saw a blinking emergency beacon inside the royal ship. Someone was trapped in the damaged section. Avery's mind raced. That could be the Queen, or worse, her children. He made up his mind fast. "Maya, keep them off us. I'm going in to help whoever's inside." Before Maya could answer, Avery opened the hatch and prepared to launch himself toward the royal cruiser. Blasts shook his ship, but he didn't hesitate. This was the moment heroes were made. Avery moved quickly, grabbing his helmet and locking it in place. He opened the small airlock on his fighter and jumped out, feeling the sudden rush of cold as he floated in space. His suit's thrusters fired, guiding him toward the damaged royal cruiser. Lasers flashed by, lighting up his suit with blue and red. Inside the ship, chaos reigned. Alarms screamed and smoke filled the hallways. Pirate raiders in dark armor smashed open doors, looking for the royal family. But one small figure moved quietly, away from all the noise. Princess Nira, the Queen's youngest daughter, was only 8 years old. She had slipped away from her frightened guards. Her heart pounded as she ran down the long corridor, her small hands clutching the tiny toy robot, a gift from her mother. She wanted to be brave, but she was alone and lost. Suddenly, an explosion rocked the ship. Nira was thrown to the floor. She scrambled up and darted into a side room, the medical bay. The door jammed behind her, trapping her inside. She could hear angry voices outside, pirates searching every room. Outside, Avery reached the cruiser's hull. He used his suit's torch to cut open a hatch, then crawled inside. The air was thick with smoke and sparks flew from broken panels. He heard distant shouts and blaster fire. His heart hammered in his chest, but he forced himself to stay calm. He checked his tracker. The emergency beacon was close. He ran down the tight corridors, blaster ready. Twice, he had to hide as pirates stomped past. He moved quickly and quietly, thinking only of the person he had come to save. At last, Avery reached the medical bay. The door was stuck. He could see through the small window. A child sat inside, hugging her knees and shaking. It was Princess Nira. Avery spoke softly into his suit radio, hoping she would hear. "Nira, my name is Avery. I'm here to help you. I need you to stay very quiet, okay?" Nira looked up, her eyes wide. She nodded, tears on her cheeks. Avery worked fast, prying the door open with his tools. All the while, pirate footsteps echoed down the hall. He got the door open just as 2 pirates rounded the corner. "Hide behind me," Avery said. The pirates shouted and raised their guns. Avery fired first, using the door as a shield. He knocked one pirate down and the other fled. He turned to Nira. "We have to go, now." Nira grabbed his hand tightly. Together, they ran through the smoky corridors. Avery protected her from falling wires and flying sparks. He could hear pirates everywhere, getting closer. As they ran, Nira whispered, "Thank you for coming for me." Avery squeezed her hand. "I promised your mother I'd keep you safe." But as he looked for a safe path, he knew their escape was just beginning. The ship was still crawling with pirates, and the hardest part was yet to come. Avery led Princess Nira through the broken corridors of the royal cruiser. His senses were sharp, listening for every sound. He held his blaster in one hand and Nira's tiny fingers in the other. Smoke stung his eyes, and the floor shook from explosions somewhere deeper in the ship. He stopped at a junction and peered around the corner. 2 pirates in heavy armor were searching a room just ahead. Avery whispered, "Stay behind me and don't make a sound." Nira nodded bravely, still clutching her toy robot. Avery took a deep breath and activated his prototype cloaking field. For a moment, he and Nira shimmered like ghosts, then vanished from sight. Moving quietly, Avery guided Nira along the wall, past the pirates who argued about loot and never noticed them slip by. Suddenly, an alarm blared louder. The pirates became more desperate, smashing doors and yelling. Avery's cloaking field flickered. The battery was almost dead. They had to hurry. They reached the emergency escape pods, but more pirates stood guard. Avery knew fighting them head-on would be risky. He glanced at Nira, who looked scared but determined. "Do you trust me?" he asked softly. Nira nodded. "Yes, I'm not afraid with you." Avery smiled, feeling braver himself. He picked up a metal pipe and threw it down the hallway. The loud clang made the pirates look away for a split second. That was all Avery needed. He moved fast, firing at the pirates' feet to make them jump away from the pods. Nira ran behind him, her small legs moving as quickly as they could. One pirate managed to grab Avery's arm, but Nira swung her toy robot at his helmet, distracting him long enough for Avery to push him back. They dove into the nearest escape pod. Avery slammed the doors shut and hit the launch button. Outside, pirates banged on the hull, but the pod shook free and rocketed away from the cruiser. Inside, everything was cramped and noisy. Nira hugged Avery tightly, tears streaming down her cheeks. "We're safe now, right?" Avery smiled and wiped away her tears. "For now, yes. But we have to stay sharp." He checked the pod's systems. Warning lights blinked. The pod had damage from the fighting. They were flying straight into the asteroid field that filled this part of space. It was their only chance to escape the pirates, but it wouldn't be easy. Nira looked out the small window at the stars and rocks flying by. "You're really a hero," she whispered. Avery laughed quietly. "A hero. I'm just trying to keep up with you." As the pod sped through the dangerous asteroid field, Avery knew they still had many problems to solve. But he also knew he wouldn't let anything happen to Princess Nira, not while he still had breath in his body. And somewhere behind them, the pirates would not give up so easily. The escape pod shook as it shot away from the royal cruiser. Avery sat in the pilot's seat, quickly checking the controls. Red lights blinked everywhere. Damage alerts, low fuel, and warning messages. The ship's systems beeped and buzzed. But at least for now, they had escaped the pirates on the cruiser. Princess Nira looked out the window, her eyes wide as the pod spun into an asteroid field. Huge rocks drifted silently all around them. Some were as big as mountains, others no larger than pebbles, all moving in different directions. One wrong move, and the pod would crash. Behind them, the pirate flagship was chasing. Sarkin's cruel voice came over the radio. "You can't run forever. Give me the girl, and maybe I'll let you live." Avery ignored him. He focused on steering the pod between the spinning asteroids. Every muscle in his body was tense. He remembered his training. "Stay calm. Trust your instincts." "Hang on," he told Nira, as he dodged another massive rock. Suddenly, a pirate fighter darted in front of them and fired. The pod shook again. Metal panels rattled and sparks flew. Avery grabbed the emergency controls. "We've got trouble," he said, but Nira was already ahead of him. "I can help," Nira cried. She crawled to the back of the pod, opening a small access panel. Inside were wires and blinking lights. "My mother's engineers taught me," she explained quickly. Her small hands began to connect wires. Avery glanced at her, surprised but hopeful. "You're a fast learner," he said. She grinned, a little spark of courage shining in her eyes. Another blast rocked the pod. This time, a small asteroid scraped the side, sending them spinning. Avery fought the controls. The pirate fighter tried to line up another shot, but Avery suddenly steered the pod into a thick cloud of space dust and rocks. The pirate ship fired blindly but missed. Almost done, Nira shouted from the back. With one last twist, she rerouted power to the engines. The pod surged forward, gaining speed. Avery used the new boost to dive deeper into the asteroid field, twisting and turning through narrow gaps. The pirate ship followed, but wasn't as agile. One sharp turn, and a huge rock smashed into the pirate's wing, sending it spinning out of control. Avery let out a breath. For a moment, they were safe. He looked at Nira with pride. "You saved us. I owe you." Nira smiled shyly, her cheeks pink. "We're a team." But their troubles weren't over. Avery checked the scanners. No signal from the rest of the convoy. Their radio was broken, and they were alone in the middle of a dangerous asteroid field, and he knew Sarkin would still be hunting them. Avery set the pod down inside a hollow asteroid to hide and try repairs. "We'll be okay," he promised. But in his heart, he knew this was just the beginning of a much bigger adventure. The escape pod rested silently inside the hollow asteroid, surrounded by thick walls of rock. Outside, space was dark and still, but inside the pod, tension filled the small cabin. Avery stared at the cracked radio panel. The device flickered weakly but would not send or receive messages. He sighed, rubbing his temples. "We need to fix this, or no one will know we're alive." Princess Nira sat close, watching him work. Despite everything, she seemed calmer now. "I want to help," she said softly. Avery smiled. "I could use a clever helper." He handed her a small toolkit. Together, they opened the radio panel. Inside were wires, circuits, and tiny blinking lights. Avery explained each part in simple words. "This is the transmitter. It sends signals. If it's broken, no one can hear us." Nira listened carefully, her eyes shining. "Maybe if we fix this, your friends will come." Hours passed as they worked side by side. Nira's small hands were careful and quick. She connected wires while Avery tightened screws. Sometimes sparks flew and smoke hissed, but they didn't give up. Between repairs, Avery learned more about Nira. She was clever and brave, even when scared. She told him about the artifact her family was carrying, an ancient crystal said to keep peace in the galaxy. The pirates wanted it badly. "That's why they attacked," Avery said. "If the pirates get that crystal, they could start a war." Nira nodded. "My mother told me it is very important. We must keep it safe." Finally, the radio crackled. Static filled the cabin. Then a faint voice whispered, "Is anyone out there? This is Velari Patrol. Respond." Avery's heart leaped. He adjusted the frequency, sending back a quick signal. "This is Commander Avery Kane. We are alive and need help." Relief washed over them both, but their moment of calm was broken by a loud thud against the pod's hull. Avery grabbed his blaster as Nira hid behind a seat. Outside the asteroid, a pirate ship hovered, scanning for signs of life. The pirates had found them. Avery's mind raced. They had little time. "We can't stay here," he said. "Once the pirates realize we're alive, they will attack." Nira looked frightened, but nodded. "What do we do?" Avery smiled to keep her calm. "We fight if we have to. But first, we finish the radio and call for backup." Working fast, Avery and Nira completed the last repairs. Avery sent their exact position to the Velari fleet. The signal was weak, but it would have to do. As the pirate ship's sensors swept over the asteroid, Avery prepared for what came next. The little princess held tightly to her toy robot, ready to face the unknown. They were alone in enemy territory, but together, they would not give up. The hollow asteroid trembled as pirate sensors swept through its surface. Avery tightened his grip on the blaster, eyes scanning every shadow. Princess Nira huddled close, her small hands clutching the toy robot like a shield. "Stay calm," Avery whispered. "We can't let them find us." Outside, pirate voices echoed faintly through the asteroid's thin walls. The pirates were searching, their heavy footsteps and murmurs growing louder. Avery's mind raced. They were trapped, but not defeated. Suddenly, the asteroid shook violently. A deep rumble echoed through the rocks. Avery's eyes widened. "They're drilling." Pirates were trying to break through. "We don't have much time," Avery said, pulling Nira to her feet. "I have a plan, but it's risky." He hurried to the control panel of the pod. "The asteroid's core has unstable minerals. If I can overload the pod's power and trigger a chain reaction, it might blow a hole big enough for us to escape and trap the pirates." Nira looked scared. "Will it hurt them?" Avery nodded. "It will stop them from catching us. We'll have to leave fast." Nira took a deep breath, trusting Avery. "Okay." Avery started working, rerouting power to the pod's main reactor. Sparks flew as circuits hummed and lights blinked rapidly. The pod shook under the strain. Outside, the pirates grew louder, their drills breaking through the rock. "Almost there," Avery muttered, fingers flying over the controls. Suddenly, the hatch trembled as a pirate smashed it with a heavy tool. Avery fired his blaster, holding the door closed. Nira stepped back, eyes wide but steady. "Ready?" Avery asked. Nira nodded. With a final command, Avery pushed the reactor to overload. A powerful surge raced through the pod and into the asteroid's core. The ground vibrated, cracks spider-webbed across the rock walls. "Now we run," Avery shouted. He grabbed Nira's hand, and they dashed toward the pod's hatch. The asteroid exploded behind them in a shower of rocks and light. The pirates were thrown back by the blast, their ship rocked violently. Avery slammed the pod's doors shut and hit the launch button. The pod shot out of the asteroid, dodging debris as it raced into space. Nira gasped, clutching Avery. "We did it." Avery smiled, breathless. "Yeah, but we're not safe yet." He checked the pod's sensors. The pirates' damaged ship was drifting, but reinforcements had not yet arrived. A message crackled over the radio. "The Velari fleet. Commander Kane, we are en route. Hold your position and stay safe." Avery nodded to Nira. "Help is coming." Nira smiled weakly. "Thank you for saving me." Avery's eyes softened. "You saved me too. We make a good team." As the pod drifted in space, the bond between human and princess grew stronger. They had faced danger together, and the future held even greater challenges. The cold silence of space was broken by the hum of engines. Avery's pod shuddered as bright lights flooded the viewport. The Velari fleet had arrived. "Command, this is Commander Kane," Avery said into the radio. "Thank you for coming. The pirates are damaged, but still dangerous." A voice responded, calm and strong. "We're here to help. Hold tight." Outside, sleek Velari ships surrounded the pirate flagship. Energy beams flashed, and the pirates fired back, but they were outnumbered and outmatched. Avery watched with relief as the Velari fighters tore into the enemy. Inside the pod, Princess Nira smiled for the first time in days. She looked at Avery, her eyes shining. "We're going to be okay." Avery nodded, but he stayed alert. The pirates were desperate and could try one last attack. The Velari fleet moved in tight formation, cutting off the pirates' escape routes. Suddenly, the pirate flagship exploded in a ball of fire. The remaining pirate ships scattered, retreating into the darkness. The Velari commander hailed Avery. "You did well, Commander. Your courage saved the princess and the fleet." Avery felt a warm pride, but kept his voice humble. "Thank you, ma'am. I was just doing my duty." Princess Nira reached out and took Avery's hand. "You're more than a hero to me." Avery smiled. "And you're braver than anyone I know." The fleet escorted the pod safely to the Villari homeworld. As they entered orbit, the royal palace came into view, tall spires and glowing walls shining beneath the stars. Avery and Nira prepared for their arrival. Avery thought about how much had happened and how much still lay ahead. The artifact they carried was safe for now, but the danger was not over. Inside the palace, the queen awaited. She would want to thank Avery in person, and there was something else she wanted to give him. As the pod docked, Avery looked at Nira. "Ready to meet your mother?" Nira nodded, gripping her toy robot tightly. Together, they stepped out of the pod and into the bright, welcoming light of the palace. The grand doors of the Villari palace opened with a slow, regal sweep. Avery stepped inside, still holding Princess Nira's hand. The halls were vast and shining, filled with soft lights that seemed to hum with quiet power. Everywhere, elegant statues and glowing plants told stories of the Villari's ancient history. At the far end of the great hall stood Queen Talena. Her blue skin shimmered softly, and her eyes were full of warmth and gratitude. She smiled gently as Avery and Nira approached. "Commander Avery Kane," the queen said, her voice calm and strong. "You have done a great service to my family and my people. Thank you." Avery bowed his head respectfully. "Your Majesty, it was my honor. I only did what any pilot would have done." The queen shook her head slightly. "You showed courage and kindness, qualities we all admire. Not just skill in battle, but heart." Nira stepped forward, clutching her toy robot tightly. "Mother, this is Avery. He saved me." The queen looked at Avery and then at her daughter, her eyes shining with relief. "You have my deepest thanks," she said. Turning to Nira, she added, "And you have been very brave, little one." After a moment, the queen motioned to a glowing pedestal beside her. Upon it rested a small, ancient device, a crystal embedded in a delicate metal frame, glowing softly with blue light. "This," said the queen, "is the Villari cycle. It is a symbol of trust and alliance, passed only to those we hold dear. Today, I offer it to you, Avery Kane." Avery's eyes widened. He stepped forward cautiously and reached out to touch the sigil. As his fingers closed around it, a warm energy pulsed through him. The crystal seemed to recognize him, glowing brighter. The queen smiled. "The sigil binds with the bearer, granting a connection to the Villari people and their technology. You will have access to our resources and protection, and your place among us will be forever honored." Avery looked down at the glowing sigil in his hand. It was more than a gift. It was a promise of friendship and a new future. Nira smiled up at him. "You're part of our family now." Avery felt something inside him change, a feeling of hope and belonging. For a human far from home, it was more than he could have asked for. The queen placed a gentle hand on Avery's shoulder. "There will be challenges ahead, but together, we will face them. The galaxy needs brave hearts like yours." Avery nodded. "I'm ready." As the ceremony ended, Avery thought about the journey so far, the battles, the danger, and the unexpected friendship with a princess. But most of all, he thought about what came next. With the Villari sigil in his hand, Avery Kane's life was forever changed.